welcome to Let Me Know How It Is, a pop culture podcast about TV, movies, comics, and all things geek. We're reviewing the new film, The Suicide Squad, today. I'm Zach Slater.
I'm Frank Melman.
This is Tommy Smithereens.
And I'm Clifton.
Okay, so this is a new territory for us. We've never reviewed a current movie or television show or anything like that, so we're just giving it a try, seeing what you guys think. If you like it, let us know on Twitter or in the comments if you want to see more of this kind of stuff. But we'll just jump right in. So, The Suicide Squad, directed by James Gunn. What do we think? Written and directed by James Gunn, I should say. Sorry.
It was fun.
Yes.
I'm gonna say something. You know what?
He's coming in with a hot take.
Yeah, I am. And based upon how they depicted the action and the deaths, to me, it was like the worst, best made movie I've ever seen. Now, it's weird because I've seen bad movies in which I hate. I don't hate this.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not a horror fan. So the deaths were always jarring to me.
Mm-hmm.
And there's certain things that I thought they could do differently, but I felt it was better than the mess that they did with Suicide Squad.
Mm.
So it's not like it bored me. I couldn't not stop watching. But by the same token, I was like, they had to do it that way? Like
I think for me, once I had heard it was going to be rated R, I kind of expected this.
Okay.
You know, I kind of expected not everything we got, but I expected like the deaths to be gruesome.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But yeah, it certainly earns its R rating. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Sure, right off the bat. Waste no time.
Yeah.
Should we slap on the spoiler alert on the beginning of this, please?
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. We're going to spoil everything about this movie in this review.
If you have a chance to see it whether in the theater or HBO Max, go watch it right now because we're going to talk about all of it.
Yep.
There's no point in doing. I don't think there's any point in doing the review without talking about it. So let's talk about it.
I didn't expect people to lose their face.
Right. Right. Well, which time?
Yeah, it's like, oh my god.
Which time? Because I'll tell you what. When Blackguard eats it.
Yeah.
Like, it's ooh, you know what I mean? There's a lot of like, but the one that really messed me up is the Starro one. When
you're jumping to the end.
Yeah. That was the I mean, well, since Tommy's talking about losing faces though, that was the losing face that I was like, oh, like that one stuck with me for a bit. But yeah. But I mean, so we should set this up. So this was a movie that was like highly anticipated by all of us.
Sure.
Yes. We're all looking forward for this in our year end. Like, you know, we all talked about how this was like one of the things for 2021 we were really looking forward to.
Absolutely.
You know, and Suicide Squad comes up a lot, you know, just regularly. So we're a fan of the concept.
Yes.
You know, already anyway.
Yeah, I was super excited about it. I mean, I haven't read as much as like the later stuff, but the Ostrander run, the one that Gunn pretty much drew from, I've read all of it. I love it. It's one of my favorite series of all time. Well, definitely one of my favorite villain series of all time, but like comics, I love that whole run. That thing's that's top to bottom. That it may come off a little dated now because some of it's wrapped up in 80s politics, but otherwise, it's it's fantastic. It's so good. Ostrander does such a good job.
And he's definitely drawing upon some of that stuff too, because I mean, like Ostrander's in the movie.
Sure. Oh yeah.
Like, you know,
is he really? I blinked and I missed him. Where is
he's the doctor putting the explosive in Savant's head.
Yeah, it says good when he says good dog.
Okay.
That's Ostrander.
Yeah, that's Ostrander right there, which is great. Yeah, I think what I follow him on I don't know, Facebook or on Twitter, but he said that Rooker, when he saw him at the premiere, kept calling him his co-star since they were in that scene, which I love that part of it. I was, you know, not that they didn't do it that much with, you know, acknowledgement in the first one, but this one, Gunn said from the jump, no, I'm looking at the Ostrander run. That's what I'm basing this on. And rightly so, because that's the way, you know, this movie wouldn't have been made without that book. Let's just, you know, get that out there. That's not a hyperbole without that. Cause before it, I mean, it's the Task Force X stuff. The original premise is pretty much they're 4 humans chasing, like it's more like Challenges the Unknown and they're chasing monsters.
Okay.
the whole Dirty Dozen concept of villains, basically getting the time shaved off of their sentences for going after whatever the American government wants them to do. That's all Ostrander.
Yeah.
That comes out of Legends, that miniseries. And without him, you don't have this. So, I mean, Luke McDonnell, obviously the artist on most of it is also right there, but it's definitely John Ostrander. So,
okay.
That I was happy to see. I was glad that that they had him front and center and they weren't afraid to shy away from, there's a lot of people that get thanked in the end of it, but his was the one that was like, nope, they need him in it. So,
yeah, and he's there to be thanked for it. So why not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a great achievement. It's a great book. So
that's good. That's great for him.
Mm-hmm.
I'd never read much of Ostrander's run. I'm just always familiar with the concept of the team just from other stuff. I've read a little bit over the years. I read, stuff other villain books that it became, Gail Simone's Secret Six, other villain books like it. So I kind of picked up on stuff along the way. I never saw the first movie either.
Okay.
Really?
This was the first one was directed by David Ayer.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Did he also write the first one?
I think he co-wrote. I thought he got writing credits for it, didn't he?
I don't know, but I did not see that one. So I went into this one. I was more excited about this one because, again, I was familiar with the concept, and I liked Margot Robbie a lot in Birds of Prey as Harley Quinn.
Okay.
And a big James Gunn fan. So I was not surprised at all by the level of gore because I've seen Slither. James Gunn, just knowing his background, he's got a horror background. He, I've mentioned it before on a show, he worked for Troma. He worked for Lloyd Kaufman at Troma Studios. Troma created Toxic Avenger, Nukem High.
Did you see there was a Toxic Avenger credit on the movie? That makes so much sense.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
I did notice the credit, a special thanks, but I did not see what it was in the film.
Yes.
And I don't know now. I'm like, does he work this into all of his movies? Just put a Toxic Avenger scene and everything?
Yes.
He possibly does. Because he was raised at Troma. But I was definitely not surprised by the level of gore that we got once I heard it would be rated R.
And according to Clinton, not to cut you out, but according to Wikipedia, David Ayer wrote and directed the first one.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I had not seen that one. I never did. Not even before going to this one did I see that one. But.
Wow.
I don't have the hate for that movie that people do. I don't either. I don't. I really don't. It's not.
I'll back you up on it, Frank.
Thank you for co-signing. I appreciate that because it's not a bad movie. I mean, it's especially for what they're for. Again, for the people that enjoyed the first couple outings for this, extended universe stuff for DC. The character, my take on it has always been the characters act like the characters are supposed to be portraying. Like no one's like the villains do, villainous stuff. No one's surprised that the villains are doing things that, this is not why would this character that's supposed to be a hero and virtuous doing these things? No, that's not this. So I've never had a problem with it. I mean, even though, there's talk of Warner Brothers cutting it up and messing with it with David Ayer's, first one, I didn't have anywhere near the same vitriol for that some people did. I thought it was fine.
I don't either, but I do think that it's possibly going to make it better. I mean, I think, we did the Ostrander Love Fest, but I think the stuff in the first movie that works is also the stuff that's above and beyond clearly Ostrander stuff.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Sure. I mean, but the thing about that is that it's the, the first one's an adaptation of Ostrander stuff too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's I think it's the four, let me see, I'll look it up real quick, but I believe it's the the fourth trade for Suicide Squad. Like that when they get into it, let me see if I can find out. No, it's actually second. It's the second trade out for the collection, the trades. Yeah. It's the Nightshade Odyssey, where basically you find out what her background is and all that stuff. They just folded in, Nightshade into Enchantress and did it that way. Mm-hmm. So
there are some things in it though that I do think. I think there are weird decisions in it that make me go, that kind of that's sort of unfortunate, I think. And those are corrected here. So the quick one I'll bring up here is that Rick Flag to me is the reason why the Suicide Squad concept works is that you have he's not a criminal. He's not in the same situation that all the other guys running the operation are. He's there. He's the chaperone essentially, right? And,
sure.
And he's a soldier of a certain of a certain caliber. He's supposed to be one of like the best fighters in the entire DC universe, right? And go toe to toe with Batman, stuff like that. We've seen that all the time.
Yeah.
And he is enough to keep them in check. Like that's why he's there.
Right.
The first movie has like the Scott Eastwood character and like the battalion of guys as backup.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me, like the whole premise falls apart on that because I'm like, well, if they're there, why do you need the criminals to go in? Like you're already sending people into this operation. The whole point is you don't want to send soldiers into this operation. That's too dangerous. You want to send these crooks in. So that's a misstep, I think, for the first movie. Luckily, that's not in the second movie. It is like the version that we expect. Here's Flag, here's crooks, and they're going into this like most dangerous situation on the planet.
Sure.
At the moment.
Right. Yeah, I think that they, the this time around, well, I mean, I'll put it this way, that's one of the things about Suicide Squad when you read it is, the high body count. Like you're not surprised that characters don't make it back.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's always surprising when it's characters that that don't make it back. Like it's one thing if you kill somebody that you've never heard of, or they create someone for the book, you're like, well, surely that person's going to die.
Right.
When I remember seeing the ads for it and they had so many characters, I'm like, oh, well, Javelin's not going to make it. Flula Borg is he's only going to be in it for so long, or Pete Davidson's only going to be in it for so long.
Mm.
But the fact that they put in, the Flag and Harley are a part of that group is it's a cool choice.
Right.
Because you have that moment of like, you
set it up quickly. Set up the opening quickly. The opening, the first, I don't know how long that is. Let's say first 10 minutes of it or so.
So basically, you have the bit with Savant, and then it's basically the premise gets laid out to Savant for the viewer, for the person watching the movie, that this is the Suicide Squad. Basically, you can shave time off of your sentence if you basically go on this mission for Waller, and i.e. an extension of the American government. They're all housed in Belle Reve, this penitentiary in Louisiana. And if you do this, you get the time shaved off. But the catch is, they're going to put an explosive device in your neck that if you stray too far from your mission or decide to desert altogether, they're going to blow your head off.
Right.
And then the other thing about it, that the reason why they're nicknamed the Suicide Squad is because generally they don't, there's a good chance you'll die.
Yeah.
That's it completely. Is like, that's the rub is like, well, yeah, I could do this and shave off 10 years, but I could also, die horribly at the hands of, whatever that we're going to face.
Yeah.
And they're fully expendable. The government does not care one way.
No,
right.
That's shown early in that first scene is that when they hit the beach and you realize that that Blackguard has sold them out.
Right.
Right. That when they hit the beach, the Blackguard has sold them out, and that there's no that they've basically been made, and then it's like basically the firefight starts. Full well then it's on, and then it becomes a symphony of death.
Right.
Where all these characters that like Javelin and Mongal and on and on and on, all those characters.
TDK.
TDK. Yeah. Which is basically a character. Like, I don't think there's any modern day equivalent. And we talked about this like before we did this episode, was just the idea that he's based on a someone who applied to the Legion of Superheroes in the future. I don't know if that's his backstory in this, but and is rejected. They don't want him because they think it's a useless power, so they don't take him.
He's called Arms Fall Off Boy. Is that correct?
Yes, or Arm Fall. I think it might just be Arm singular Fall Off Boy.
Arm Fall Off Boy.
Yeah, that's about all he can do. So they don't take him. So
I would say that one of the lines when they were asking, the other people were asking, what does TDK stand for? And he's like, it stands for me. It's my name. Right. One of the lines that cracked me up the most was when somebody was like, your name is just letters. And the response of all names are letters.
Right. Yes. I think it's Javelin says to him, like, just say your name is letters. And then, Pete Davidson, I think, or Blackguard says, it's all names are letters.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great bit.
That cracked me up.
That was very funny. So but in the entirety of Suicide Squad, people, like I said, people die. And sometimes the deaths are like expected, and sometimes they're unexpected. I think there's maybe one instance where an entire team gets wiped out. It's very I think that's the only time that there's one. And I don't want, if you haven't read it, I'm not going to spoil that for you. But there is an instance where an entire team gets wiped out. Right, like top to nobody makes it back, kind of a thing.
I think this open for me is effective. I like because we go through the motions completely of like, we got the recruiting stuff, we got our focal character, right? And we think this is the mission that we're going on. And we see, you know, it's through Savant's eyes as like our focal character. And then we get Bongal, Javelin, Captain Boomerang, Harley, right? Like all being led by Flag. And we think like Weasel, Blackguard, like this is the movie and this is good, you know? And I like the shock of it, that like, you know, it plays fair with us, and then we get to the scene and then it's just like, he sold us out. Nope. and like everybody's like rubbed out basically.
Oh sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, again, and I think it does a nice job because, you know, a lot of times when you say, you know, when you have characters that are name characters or face characters or, you know, people that you recognize, and you put them in that situation, you never really know. Like, again, I think it was smart to put Harley and Rick Flag in this situation after watching everybody, you know, get wiped out. And it's also one of those things where it's not like you're dealing with a world beater with no one on the beach is going to basically expect to take on an army by themselves.
Yeah.
You know, they're all kind of like, no, they got some cool, they could, you know, do stuff, but it's not, they're not going to.
I think the casting works in his favor too. I mean, you know, we have some favorites of James Gunn, you know, that he's worked with, you know,
regulars for sure.
Yeah. Regulars in there that you think are going to be there for the whole movie.
Right.
And I think that helps. I think that helps kind of sell the gag.
Well, the thing about a quick aside, my wife we got done watching it, we're in the kitchen, and my wife says, the funny thing is Nathan Fillion was supposed to be in that movie. I didn't see him at all.
right.
And I said, no, he's the dude with his arms coming off. What? Really? Yeah. I said, yeah, that's Nathan Fillion. Oh, okay. Well, you know, I thought, like, again, like when I thought about people that he's worked with before, I was like, oh yeah, there's a ton of people that he usually, you know, he uses or are willing, you know, that shows up for stuff that he does, which I think is kind of cool. Like kind of like the way that Raimi people show up for Raimi stuff.
Right.
You know, get people that he's been working with since he was kids or when he was, you know, a young filmmaker. I think that's always fun when people do that kind of stuff. So
I think it's effective. I think the actors, you know, the players in the scene works. I think, like you said, the fact that Harley and Flag are there kind of like, you know, because like really, if you're looking at the list of names of everybody that goes to this operation, like the bit where all the characters are like Waller's like analysts, like you know, like are betting on like who's gonna die. Really looking at the list of characters, like those were all the ones I was expecting when all the promotional stuff, when they're all saying like don't get too attached. I was looking at them like, well, I'm like Javelin's gonna go, and I'm like certainly he's gonna go. Sure. Right. And then I'm like Pete Davidson, I was like, well, he's kind of lovable. So maybe like I could see him kind of sticking around, but I'm like, but you know, he's certainly like nobody has Blackguard plans.
No.
Right. No. You know what I mean?
He shows up in a couple issues of Booster Gold early on. I think that's like his only thing. And he never shows up, as far as I know, after that and anything else. But, yeah, I like that opening bit. I think the opening bit works fine. And you even get to see the bit of when Savant, you know, does like, do they actually blow people's heads up? Oh yeah, they actually do. Yeah, they do. Yeah, they will.
Yeah, because that's the thing you don't get a lot in the other tellings of the stories. They talk about blowing people's heads up a lot, but you don't see it actually happen.
Right.
So.
Well, I mean, okay. I don't want to spoil anything for anybody who hasn't seen like Hell to Pay or
right.
and any of that stuff. Let's not spoil everything. I was about to blur something out. I'm like, no, let's not do that because it happens. It just doesn't happen much. You're right.
You're talking the animated Suicide Squad Hell to Pay, the animated movie. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. But no, and I think that runs the gamut of all the stuff. And then I like the tease of Weasel. I think the Weasel bit is also nice because you do have those moments too where characters just die in stupid ways. Right. In the book, especially, like, there are people that just like they trip over their own feet or something happens and they're dead.
Yeah.
That happens too. It's not always like they face a squadron of guys or they you know, there's one mission that's really great in Suicide Squad where they go to Apocalypse, and that one is, you know, horrific because they're so out of their element on Apocalypse. You know, awesome stuff. But
the one that hurts me in that scene, though, I'll say, is Boomerang.
Well, of course,
that's the one that hurts.
Yeah. No, I agree with you there. I think that it's one of those. I mean, granted, they could just roll out his kid. That's what I'm guessing they're going to do if they use him in Flash at some point. they'll just roll out Owen. But still, I have a soft spot for Boomer. Boomer's throughout. He's one of those seminal characters in Suicide Squad for a long time.
I think so too, and I think that was one of the things that the first movie. He's so like criminally underused in it. Mm-hmm. Like it's almost like, why is he there in the first movie? Like they don't do anything with him. And I thought like they were going to have some fun with him. Like he's a character that I think lends a dynamic to the team.
Sure.
And I thought for sure, I'm like, okay, well, Gunn's going to correct this. Like we're going to have some fun with Boomerang. And then it was like, no, but,
but again, I will say this. One of the things that I, again, going back to Ostrander, one of the things I love about his book is the fact that, and you don't really get it so much in like the hero stuff, but in the villain stuff in this book, you get that feeling of, you get those stratas of like, there's bad guys and then there's evil guys. You know what I mean? Right. And Boomer's just a guy that you know full well, at least in the comics, you never like, you always hope he's going to play fair with you and do the right thing or do something at least going to help the team. But most times he's just going to cover his own ass. Mm-hmm. So, there's that aspect of it. And I agree with you. I was hoping for more Boomer in this, but I kind of saw when I saw that he was kind of like lined up with those characters that I pretty much had I was pulling like even money that I'm like, no, they're not going to make it. Yeah. I just figured there may be a way, but no, he didn't.
Oh, and I have two minds of it too, because like on one hand, I think his death, gives that scene some weight.
Sure.
To it for the comic guys like us that have an affinity for Boomerang. Yeah. But
I like the fact that Harley said that was my friend.
Right.
Yeah. It sort of gave the comic book connection that she shared being on different missions with Captain Boomerang.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It sort of made it. I think to me that was a sort of nod to the comic book fans. It's like they had a bond in previous incarnation as to why she would feel that way. But I agree with Zach as far as Boomerang. I was like, man, of all the people, because Boomerang's more of a bank robber. He's not a murderer.
No.
Right? Yeah.
And he was one of the actors that I was really excited. I'm like, oh, they're like Jai Courtney's coming back for this. Like I was really happy that that some of the carryover from one was coming, of which you don't need to watch one at all to enjoy this, because there's really no carryover. But it is fun for Tommy, like what you were saying, that there's a hint of like, oh, Harley and Boomerang at least did that mission together, and possibly more stuff in between.
Right.
If you want to play with it. But okay, so let's move on to the real like meat.
Well, I do think just real quick before we leave that scene, I do think it's really important that you get the bit with Waller at the end of it looking satisfied. We're like, I knew, like kind of like I knew this was going to happen, and I don't care that it happened.
Right.
And it's very telling that you get more of a because in the comic you do get much more of a like people that work at Bell Rev. Like there's a cast of characters that are there that I really don't think you get much of in the first one.
Mm.
Like the one that the character that Steve Agee plays, John Economos, is a guy that's like throughout the book. Like he's in the book, like he has scenes throughout Suicide Squad, and it's important that I think to have those people there, because I think one of those things about that I talked about this with Tommy after we saw the movie. Like this is outside of like the podcast, was just the idea. Like one of my things about it is like as much as I like the idea of Waller being willing to do whatever, she's not an amoral character,
right?
And I think the idea of having those characters sort of be obviously kind of I guess a firewall against her, I guess in some cases for some of the stuff she's willing to do, and we'll get more into that as we discuss more of the movie. But just that's one of those things where like he's not like some throwaway character. He's actually in the Ross Sanders run, and the blonde woman I don't know who she's supposed to be, but I couldn't place her for like in being in the comic. Maybe I'm just forgetting her character, but.
Yeah, we'll touch upon what you're saying at a later point, because I think what you're saying about Waller, I think, becomes evident later on with Flag, and Flag's presence there, I think, complicates it a bit,
right? Sure,
which we can get into. But okay, so they're decoys,
right?
Right, and there's another mission,
right? Which is again, which is another point of like there's always there's a mission, but then there's like the mission within the mission kind of a thing,
right? So then we shift gears to another part of the beach where we have Bloodsport, the Idris Elba character,
right,
and Peacemaker, Ratcatcher 2, Polka Dot Man, who am I forgetting?
King Shark.
King Shark, of course. Duh.
Yes.
King Shark. Yeah.
Right.
Which we get like through flashback that like, okay, like we get like another set of like recruiting scenes with a new batch of characters.
Right.
Putting together this operation.
Yep. I mean, I do think it's interesting, the idea that Idris Elba's character, I mean, he's a character in the comics. You know, he was introduced in John Byrne's run of like Superman. I think he's like issue 4 when Byrne, after he did Man of Steel, Byrne did this character. But I think it's weird that like everything I've seen, and it just always felt like they were hoping that Will Smith was going to come back. Down to the fact that he's got a daughter that he doesn't, you know, that he can't connect with, or he's having trouble with, or whatever.
There's certainly similar characters as portrayed here.
Yeah, very much
very
so.
similar characters.
And I don't know the validity of it, but I read somewhere that they didn't really refer to his character by name for the longest time, because they were like, well, if Will Smith comes back, we may not use blood. I want to call him Bloodshot, but that's not right. It's Bloodsport.
That was Vin Diesel.
Right.
Yes,
that was a different movie.
Yes. So, but no, I mean, all that stuff is fine. I mean, Idris is always good. Yeah. You know, I mean, I'm always happy to see him in anything. So it's not like it's bad that we get to see him, basically curse at his daughter for a scene.
which is the only thing that makes it not Deadshot to me. Right. 100%. Everything else is like, that's Deadshot. Like that could have been Deadshot easily. But the fact that he has that relationship with his daughter, and you see from the first movie that Deadshot's relationship with his daughter is actually like there's a bizarre twistedness to it, but there's a sweetness to it.
Yeah, he loves his kid, regardless.
Yeah, and I think if it was intended to be Deadshot, that is certainly the scene I think that got rewritten the most, is the daughter, aspect. But
no, I like all the. I mean, the thing that I find odd in that recruitment, that whole bit where they're recruiting all those characters in that moment, I do find it odd that Peacemaker is more of a cipher. And the idea that they do the same things, because really they don't do the same things.
Right.
Which I thought was an odd way of, I mean, it may just be a thing to keep them, to know that, to try and keep them in check. So they have later when they have their murder contest, they can, no one's going to get the upper hand of the other, kind of a thing.
Right.
But
in general description, they do the same thing. Like the description was just that in their hands, anything's a lethal weapon.
Yeah,
basically.
Sure.
And I love that bit in the movie where literally her referral to them is literally like the same exact referral.
Right.
Where like she said she has her summary of Bloodsport, and then you talk Peacemaker, and she has literally the same exact summary, and then he's like, "You just said that about me." And then
well, I like it's a good bit. It's funny,
it's a great bit.
But it's not. I mean, I guess in my mind, being the comic nerd, I'm like, well, no, they don't do the same thing, because Bloodsport teleports weapons out of anywhere.
Right.
That's part of the reason.
Just pulls them off of himself in this version.
Yeah. Sure. But that's the thing of like, that's, he's able to just put weapons together or teleport weapons or whatever. And that's
a nice
part of the
compromise, though. I like that. I like that his suit is essentially the weapon, and he can.
It's
and
the
mask looks great. Also, I'll say, I thought the mask looks phenomenal. Even that weird bit where he's like just in the tank top and like the linen pants, like and wearing the helmet. I'm like, that mask still looks cool, even though it like
right. But like I said, that was my only thing. Was I didn't, I was hoping for more of a Peacemaker's sort of like a guy that we just sort of work with in the government that isn't really like because they don't ever explain. Maybe they'll get more. That was my other thought. Was Tom and I talked about this when it came to Peacemaker. Was I wonder how far along in the process they started to decide about doing a Peacemaker series for HBO Max?
Right.
Because it seems like they purposely left stuff out about Peacemaker, just so when they get to HBO Max, they can do all of his background and backstory. Because it's just kind of like, again, I just feel like that character was one of those characters. Like, well, I mean, I know from like the ads or from like interviews, he was like, I'm a douchey Captain America, which is fine. But they don't even give you that in the movie. They just go, yep, it's Peacemaker, and he's everything is a deadly weapon to him, and blah 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 blah.
Right.
And so he's the basis for Comedian from Watchmen.
Yes.
Comedian from Watchmen was modeled on the Peacemaker character from Charlton Comics earlier.
Yeah. I mean, we get a little bit of the whole thing of like what he's willing to kill every man, woman, and child in order to get peace. That sort of thing is, that whole bit. We get a little of that when they're in the jungle later on. But other than that, I just didn't feel like there was enough for him to be like explain Whether was he was he a criminal at that point? Was he in Bel Rev? Was he just a guy that because in the comics they team up with him at one point and it's not he's not considered a criminal. He's not part of the Gen Pop at Bel Rev. So
he was in the prison though when they find him.
That's what I mean. Yeah,
I assume he was a criminal.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I didn't know if there
is a penchant for killing easily.
Oh, sure.
For him, like an excitement to it, which leads me to go he's, he's in jail.
Right.
It's.
Right. Well, I mean, it could. I mean, there's obviously there's some Punisher there too, so it's not like it's I mean, it could be one of those things where that's the case. So I would wanted a more of a definitive yes, this is where he's at. So
yeah, but you sort of get that as to when this movie ends, because I know what you're saying. You needed the definitive, but I think a lot of the lines of what we've already known of the character, especially you, Frank, of what you know of the character, but it shows it. I don't think he was ever if he was a prisoner, it's more along the lines of the prisoner that is overzealous on the field, that gets people killed, or shoots civilians, or commits war crimes in order to ensure. Because he makes that line and says, "I'm thorough."
Yeah,
right. That to me, that spells out the dudes that would kill the kids that witnessed the crime just to make sure the everyone is taken care of, so it doesn't bleed anywhere.
Or the kind of person that would shoot through the hostage to kill the guy.
Exactly. That's
right.
To me, that's why he's in the jail if he's a prisoner.
Right.
But it seems like, as far as personalities go, Waller has everyone pegged.
Yeah.
Right.
Everyone. I was gonna say the loophole was Flag, because he has a moral. He's morally strong enough that he'll avoid prison time, but he's not letting people get away with stuff, including the government, if he can prevent it.
Right.
So that's why Peacemaker's there, to ensure that Flag doesn't mess up the mission and expose everyone.
Right. No, I get that. My takeaway from it was with what I thought they were going to basically give us was the idea that Peacemaker was, to reference something that's recent, is Falcon Winter Soldier with U.S. Agent. That's their U.S. agent.
Oh, no, that's definitely their U.S. agent.
Yeah, the guy that's basically morally, gray and will do whatever needs to be done to accomplish the mission. I got that. I was just saying, I just didn't understand. I didn't understand if he was in the prison or these sort of or when they put somebody in the prison to basically be part of the team, but really he's the whole time. I mean, granted, we see what he's up to later, but
I like that's a possible avenue of it too. I like that's one of the things about this movie I like, is that there is some things that go that are not spelled out and lets you kind of go I wonder, is he just in there because Waller needs him on that mission? Right. And needs the cover of I'm using him as a criminal and stuff. Right. Because otherwise Flag gets suspicious of why somebody else is, why another operative is in there. Right.
Because again, it's one of those things where we much talk about this, much like we talked about the beach scene. There's missions within missions, but there's also people that have specific goals within missions. It's always counter to what the general group is told anyway.
Yeah,
that happens all the time in that book.
But to me, the outlier thing that you got to take in consideration, especially when they're doing the briefing, you give him the person that he's an idiot.
Right.
Yeah. Why would Waller trust an idiot with this mission? Especially when he says with the starfish bit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a slang term.
Yes.
It's a slang term for
Yeah.
But you're just waiting for him to get killed by mistake as an idiot. It's the fact that Bloodsport has to take him out is something that's unexpected. To me, the whole point, I'm like, man, Cena's gonna buy it. The only reason why I don't think Cena was gonna buy it was the underlying knowing of what HBO Max is gonna do with the character. That's the only hint.
But see, Tommy, my thing was I thought Peacemaker's series was gonna be a prequel.
Yeah, you're both right. You're both right. You're both right. I mean, that was one of those things where I know underlying the whole time is I know Peacemaker's got a show.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I am going it still doesn't mean he's not going to die.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, granted, when he makes that turn, right?
Yeah.
When he turns and becomes, the competent agent, I don't know. That's my question of which is the act? What's the act? Is the act that he's a buffoon and then he does it? He's able to turn it on and off, or is he he's just goofy when he's not in the moment? I don't know. I guess we'll see when we get the series. But,
Yeah. I don't think we know enough just yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I do think the character is well cast. Like Cena is perfect
he was fantastic
to play. Like weirdly, he could play that kind of buffoonery.
No, I loved him.
And at the same time, like he's just as believable in the stuff that he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Well, another thing too, me and Frank, what we discussed when he said when Bloodsport explained his background and talking about what his father did,
right?
Peacemaker's reaction was just And after you told me what his background is, there is no way he doesn't look down on him.
Oh, of course,
or hating it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think we're gonna get in the show. For me, I believe what you think as far as the prequel. We're gonna get his path.
Oh yeah.
I think
we will too.
Yeah, just in greater detail than whatever the movie didn't show.
Yeah, we can talk more about that scene when we get closer to it. Because I definitely had thoughts, but
it does. They do a good job though of capable and buffoon. Capable,
of course.
Because I'm thinking back to that bit too, where they're camping out for the night, and he shows up like in his tidy whities, which I'm like, what is that?
Right. Yeah, you're in the jungle and you're in your underwear. Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But again, I wonder if it's just cover or it's act or he actually is a buffoon because again, the next scene is them going to get Flag, and it's that, like I said, it's that murder contest between him and Bloodsport.
Yeah,
where they're just killing people in inventive quote unquote ways. Till they get to Flag, and then you find out they've wiped out all the freedom fighters.
That's a great reveal too. When Flag is just sitting with them, and he's like, dude,
drinking tea?
Yeah, this is the rebels. This is the rebels. I'm with the freedom fighters. Like I'm the reason. They're the reason I'm still alive.
Yeah, and they've wiped out everybody.
Yeah, they wiped out their army, and they're like, we didn't see anybody.
Which is, it's a nice metaphor for American Ops. That was one of those things. That's my takeaway from it. It was like, oh wow, yeah, that's a nice bit. So,
but that is a fun bit, as horrific as that scene can get. Also, I like the tit for tat there between Bloodsport and Peacemaker. There,
it's a pissing contest, but with killing people to get to it. Yep. So, and then what do we have next? The Harley stuff?
Oh, the Harley with the president stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. What are you guys' thoughts here?
It's always fun to watch her.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun to give her a spotlight. That's what I felt it was.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things where it's at this point, obviously, like giving her. I had a moment of it's just gonna be, but no, it's earned. I mean, she's earned it.
Well, here's the bit, Clifton. You didn't see the first movie, but a lot of that stuff is interchangeable, just done well, because it's in the first movie. What you're not aware of is you get the Harley bits, but with Joker infused.
Yeah.
So it kind of takes the spotlight away, and you kind of trying to see what the Joker is about. But it plainly takes the spotlight away from Harley when it doesn't need to be taken away. But in this one, it's pure her and how she deals with it, who she is, even how the president looks at her as a symbol.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, yeah, I can see that. I mean, just how she's presented and how she deals with the situation. And on top of that, it shows her moral commitment.
Yeah.
As to she's not really a villain the way that she's portrayed, at least through Waller's eyes,
Yeah.
Right. No, it is. It is a reaction to the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it plays nicely with Birds of Prey.
It does.
Also, I was gonna say it's
it's a rare moment so far in the DC Extended Universe where you see a character's growth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where you can actually, it may be different when we see more of the sequels, but it definitely, for me at least, I was like, oh wow, so this is this is a realized character that we've seen now in her fourth outing or third outing.
Third.
This is third. Yeah.
Third. Okay, so third outing, which is nice. I thought that was a good bit. I liked all that stuff. I liked the idea of, again, missions within missions.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like this one a lot because it definitely does feel like it picks up after her emancipation as the title of Birds of Prey and the emancipation of the fantabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn.
Right.
Great title.
Yeah, it is a good title. I still like that title.
I still do.
It chickened out later though.
I know.
But no, I really did like this scene because, like you said, this is one where we see an arc and we see an arc continuing and just seeing the growth of where she's it looks like she's going to fall back into a trap again.
Right.
Like a trap she falls herself into all the time until she doesn't.
Yeah.
And then you're just cheering for her every second of the way after that.
I like how they show that she's competent. Like, she doesn't need rescuing.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
And that is a fun bit too. My only thing about that is I wish they had talked to the choreographer from Birds of Prey because I loved her fight choreography in Birds of Prey.
Clifton, I thought the same thing. I'm so glad you brought it up because I was like, man, she moves better in Birds of Prey.
Yeah. It's just because her fight has such character in Birds of Prey because they decided like they went out of their way in Birds of Prey to give cartoonishness to her fight choreography that fit her so well. And in this one, I mean, it's an awesome scene.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's a great scene in the movie. But I'm like, these are just kind of like the same action moves everybody's doing in these movies. And like the other just gave her own fighting such personality. That's my only
It comes in different ways in this movie. Yeah. I mean, I agree with you 100%. Like there's her movements, her choreography in Birds of Prey lends itself to that outcome that you're talking about. Whereas in this movie, you're resorted to like floral backgrounns and stuff, like which is fun too.
You see like what she's seeing, sort of.
Which does leave a funness to it, too. But yeah, I wish that she moved a little more fluidly like she did at Birds of Prey, because that scene in Birds of Prey, the police station, is awesome.
Right. Yeah.
Yep. It was on last night. And I watched that scene again. It's a good scene. She's really good in it. And it was one of the things where it was nice to compare it so quickly to watching the Suicide Squad. One thing I do like about it in the Suicide Squad version one is the idea that it's one of those things where early on in her original series, I think it's Carl Kessel. I think I'm going to give him credit for it, but I'm not certain because I think he was a writer on that one. But it's shown that in her mind, when Harley was committing violence, that in her mind, it's more along the lines of how she looks in the animated series, like it's all cartoony to her,
right?
Even though she's committing real violence. And I thought that was a nice kind of like, oh, well, they're trying to nod to that. I don't know, but I liked the way it was shot. I liked the fight in this one as well as the one that's in Birds of Prey.
Right? Yeah, they're both.
Which I'm gonna say too is that now she's been in 3 movies and has had a different outfit in all the movies. I think I'm gonna say it's a tradition now, and I want to keep it going. I like the multiple outfit changes that she's had. I like that she doesn't have a uniform. Essentially,
right.
I think it's cool.
And she got the Evita dress in this.
Yeah. As much as I want to see her in that classic jester costume sometime, you know what I mean? But I like how it's just getting, moved around a lot. They're playing with it, which is great.
Can we talk about the madness that is the polka dot man?
Yes, sure.
I'm remiss. I had no idea about the character. I just know he existed as a terrible Batman foe.
Right.
But what they displayed there was just truly disturbing on every measure of the character. Is any of that canon?
They did some upgrading for him in this.
Yes, they did.
I don't think it's canon. I think it's one of the things where they looked at it looked at a Silver Age or Golden Age villain. I think he's Silver Age. They looked at him and said, what can we do to give him something a little more than just he shoots polka dots?
Yeah.
So, I don't think it is. I think it's just one of those, modern take.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because his polka dots in the books originally, he's a character from the 60s.
Yeah.
Right. He goes way back.
I just looked up. His first appearance was Detective Comics 300 in 1962.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think Dick Sprang drew him. Honestly, I think that's how old it is.
His polka dots, they were gadgets essentially, right? They did different things. They were like Green Arrows, like trick arrows. Like they all kind of did different things for different situations. Whereas this one, they're dangerous for sure.
Yeah.
That's
an understatement.
Yeah, it's one of the only things that took out Starro early on when they're during that fight.
Yeah. Well, to me, Polka Dot Man and Ratcatcher was a split of El Diablo from the first movie.
Okay.
The tragic past and the overwhelming power of split into 2 different characters.
Yeah.
That's how I saw both of them, because Ratcatcher had the tragic past in which she didn't belong there, while Polka Dot Man was an experiment from his mom, which he sees everyone as his mother.
Yeah,
It's just disturbing, man.
Yeah.
But I think it's along the lines of like, I remember at one point when I think it was Jeff Johns was talking about different characters that he wanted to like reinvent. And one of them was like Kite Man.
Right.
And he had some messed up origin for Kite Man along the lines of like, no, the kites are made of human skin, like something crazy like that.
Ew.
Right. You know, and I don't think every villain needs that level of like, ugh.
Right.
I agree.
But I think that's what they just did with Polka Dot Man. I don't think there's anything that's, you know,
Yeah.
I just don't think there's anything there other than that's just what they did.
Right.
So,
Okay.
I will bring up original Polka Dot Man creators because I see them here, and one never gets enough credit, and that is Bill Finger. So,
of course,
the credited creators I see are Bill Finger and Sheldon Moldoff.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Sure. Okay. Sure. I can see that.
Nice.
That makes sense.
Nice. Creator Batgirl there. Moldoff, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the actor's I can't remember the actor's name. What's his name?
David Dastmalchian.
Yes, he's great. I mean, he's from like I know
think
him,
I pronounced that right.
Like I know him basically from what Ant-Man the Wasp.
Right.
I first
he's in the gang.
I first saw him in Dark Knight.
Oh yeah, that's right.
He's in the ambulance when Harvey.
That's right.
You know, he's in the ambulance with Rachel's name tag.
That's right.
He's that guy.
Right.
He's one of the Joker's crooks.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he's been in a lot of stuff, and he's voicing Calendar Man now in the animated Long Halloween
cool
adaptations that are out too. Yeah, he's really good in those too.
Yeah, but he's good in this. It's a lot of fun. I mean, he's his whole I hope so.
He is. He's not a loser though. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, like he's powerful. He's got some gravitas to him. Like like I said, like when they're fighting the Starro Kaiju, those bullets aren't working. Those bullets aren't doing anything.
No. Well, I mean, Tom and I talked about that when we talked about how disturbing it was when he basically melts those guys' ankles and stuff.
Yeah,
right.
You know, that whole thing was like, ooh.
Yeah.
So, but all right. So where are we in the story? We have what? Where are we next?
Well, let's go quickly. Let's go quickly into Ratcatcher 2.
Okay, sure.
Ratcatcher 2, I think, is a real like standout, real delight of this movie. I like her character a lot.
Right.
You know. She's an original character in this movie.
Yeah, I saw a lot of since Thursday. I've seen a lot of like, when do they introduce her to the DCU proper?
Mm-hmm. Oh, soon. It's coming soon.
Oh yeah, if not already, it has to be happening.
Yeah, people are already like, no, we need that character as soon as we can. So I'm sure
based on existing character Ratcatcher.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Great Batman story too. Also, one of those that's not in the top 10. It's in nobody's top 10 of like greatest Batman stories, but it's a good one to seek out for the 3 issues of which I don't have in front of me.
It's detective, right?
You know what numbers they are. I mean, like I know they're in my collection. I know that, but they're great issues. So she's a take on that character, which is her dad.
Yeah.
which is a nice bit.
Played by Taika Waititi.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
In a nice little cameo.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I love everything about this.
Right.
I have one note only. One wish.
Okay.
One wish.
Okay.
When you get the full backstory of it and you see like why she's in jail.
Okay.
Right? Because she says like they started off in like Portugal and right? They're in Portugal and then she comes to the States. I wish that she mentioned that they came to Gotham and that's where she got arrested. That's all. That's all I want. That's all I want. I wish that she said, we came to America, we came to Gotham City, and that's where I got arrested for robbing a bank. Because this is the thing that I like. I like when you are throwing the other fictional cities around in the DC universe for things.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I think it would be nice for a movie that doesn't have a whole lot of nods. It would be nice to be like, okay, like just to acknowledge, even though we got Batman villains running around in there, like there's Gotham, there's a Batman nod, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
Yeah.
It would have been nice to even see him fight Batman, I think, in that flashback, like when she's got like the thought bar stuff. Yeah, I would have loved that. The only issue is that like which version you're going to use. You got Ben Affleck, you got Pattinson. Like, yeah, I think that is just too tough to figure out because like clearly I don't think they have a lane yet for that.
Nah, they got lost.
They don't.
Yeah, they don't. I'm glad that since they didn't have any particular person for it, that they didn't infuse it in just because they thought they needed to tell a story. But one thing I want to bring up too is I like the fact that they had a water-based character and they didn't have a water-based scene, if that made any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the first one, the fact that they put Killer Croc and they had to do a mission where he's actually swimming,
Yeah.
Right.
was ridiculous.
Mhm.
While here, they clearly had a water-based character, and
Right.
he's not made to swim or or breathe in the water or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, here they were just using him as the Hulk.
Yes, thank you. And that was quite more effective than Killer Croc ever was in the first movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 1,000%, Tommy. I agree. He should be in the Aquaman movie. Like he should be in the next one, I think. Like, like that would be fun.
Yeah.
That would be fun. And I like their relationship too. I like Ratcatcher to being like, like, do you want to be my friend? King Shark?
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
It was a nice fit.
Yeah.
All her other friends are rats,
Yeah.
so it makes sense.
Oh, what was the name of the rat that wore the vest?
Sebastian.
Sebastian. That was the one too. I was like, man, Sebastian better not die.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was our engineer before we were talking. He said he was worried, like when you see the Sebastian leading a charge. At one point, they focus on it in the movie.
Yeah, me too.
Charge of rats. Like you think he's gonna go, like you think it's gonna be lost, but
that bit at the end too, where he's on Bloodsport's lap after the mission, he falls asleep. Up. Oh, it's so cute. I love that one.
Yes,
in that rat, you see like every dog owner, every cat owner like sees their pet in that rat for that moment. Yeah,
I don't know. I was gonna throw up when they see her and her dad covered in rats. That was just gross.
It was adorable. Oh.
Yeah, it's cute in Ratatouille. He's not cute there. It's just gross me the hell out, man. Oh, I cringe.
But I again, another one. Like I love everything about like her and her dad, like twisted but sweet at the same time.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, that whole, like, again, Tom and I were talking about that whole scene, the fact when they're exchanging stories about their dads, and like you said, it's like twisted and sweet, and then he tells a story about why he's afraid of rats. And you just like Cena plays it really well because it's nice. It's just a moment of like, yeah, dads.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, and it's like, and I also like Tommy said, I also get the feeling of like you, like I want. I'm glad he doesn't, but I wanted Cena to be like when we finally find out, if you don't know about his dad, just when it's just one of those moments of like you don't have any idea what it's like to have a terrible father. That's what I wanted him to say.
Right.
It was like you don't have any clue what it's like, but he doesn't. So it'll just have to be something we see later on. So
okay, so let's get into the meat of the mission.
All right. So we have to get into Jotunheim.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because Jotunheim is I took it as it's obviously it's shorthand for obviously it's a Nazi operation because it's Germanic, so it's Norse, it's all that stuff. So surely that's what's going on. But they have to get in because there's something going on with some kind of weapon, Project Starfish, which is slang for something else.
Right.
You
can say it. We're spoiled everything. It's Starro.
Yeah.
It's Starro the Conqueror, everybody.
It isn't and isn't. So that's the problem. It isn't and isn't.
Okay.
Well, Frank, talk more about what you thought of the Thinker, man.
Oh, so Tom and I were talking about it, and I had that moment of when I first introduced the whole thing of like, hey, you have this, Generalissimo who's in a coup with this other guy and they kill this family that's been running Santa Prisca. I thought it was the Thinker has been I thought it was like, no, everyone's fine with his family. They're really benevolent. They're really not that bad. They're not like, they're not tyrannical. And that the Thinker was the man behind the curtain, was like pushing people using his powers. Right. Mm. And we don't ever really get that moment of the Thinker ever doing that. He's just got light bulbs in his head.
Right.
So I didn't quite understand like that. That's definitely one of those moments. And for me, it was kind of like, and Tom and I were talking about like back to back with the reveal. If you haven't seen the movie, I'm not going to spoil it for you. But the Taskmaster reveal that I thought, well, if you're going to have that character in this movie, the Thinker has a specific skill set, that has a specific power set of things the Thinker does. Mm-hmm. So why wouldn't you have the Thinker do stuff? Like that doesn't need to be that. It could have been like Dr. Jace from Outsiders. It's like the behind like all the, genetic stuff and, or it could have been, there's a million characters. Like what's the character in, Batman the Animated Series that is like Splice, like the basis for splicers, that guy.
Oh, from the Tiger episode?
Yes.
I forget that guy's name because it's not Milo. But Milo works in this too because he's the werewolf guy. Yeah.
Yes, Milo would have worked fine too. You could have easily had any white jacketed professor type to be the go between Starro and whoever. Mm. I thought it would have made more like if you're gonna have the thinker, let the thinker do stuff. Like even if it's like forcing someone in the squad to fight each other, or he's the one that's able to actually talk to Starro, or he's tired of being a small time and running Santa Prisca and he wants to rule the world, and now he's found his avenue through Starro. But they didn't do any of that. The thinker doesn't.
Kind of the guy that's talking to Starro, though.
Kind of.
Not really, because with all the starfish on people's faces, Starro talked fine.
Mm. Yeah, that was the other thing. Was like once you have the moment of like, oh, you're bringing people to feed me. I was like, oh, well, Starro communicates that way through people's voices, so there's no problem there. But the thinker, like I said, the thinker's not controlled. Like usually the thinker's like a puppet master, and there's none of that. And I didn't understand why Gunn didn't use him that way. Mm. That was my biggest about the movie was that like I said, I would have liked the thinker just to been like, I'm talking to Starro. I'm tired of being small town in Santa Prisca. I want to expand across I'm going to use quote unquote Starro to do that. And then Starro just rubbing him out like, or tearing him apart like he does in the movie.
Right.
That would have been fine with me. But to have the thinker who I'm like, especially have like, was it Capaldi, right? Peter Capaldi?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like I was really like looking forward to him being like, oh, I'm the thinker, and you think, anything you think you're doing, I'm making you think, or any of that kind of like all the stuff that the thinker does. Because in the comic, in Suicide Squad Ostrander's run, thinker's like in it, and like the thinker that they use there does stuff,
right?
And this I was kind of like, I'm really disappointed.
He needed a brain. He needed a scientist with like a striking visual. I feel like is what you think. Is the decision was made for, like why him?
Right. Because again, like the thinker traditionally just doesn't, that's not the thinker. Mm-hmm. Like he makes, there's one mention when she reveals, when they're in the bar and they had that moment of downtime and they're drinking in the bar, and then the people come out and they have to rush the rush rat catcher and everybody out to the van with, what's his name?
Melvin?
What's the guy that's
Milton.
Milton. Okay, sorry. Yeah.
So they have to go out the van with Milton anyway. And she makes mention of the fact, like he recognizes her technology of like what she does with rats, right? He gets that. He goes, oh, I've been thinking about doing the same thing with humans. I'm like, no, that's your whole bit, man. That's not thinking about what you're going to do with humans. You've been doing this for 30 years with Starro and you've never applied the powers that you have. Like, I don't get it. Like, again, I didn't understand. That was my biggest, what? With the movie.
I do like his line about like you were going to let one little coup get in the way of 30 years of scientific research. I love that line. I thought like just from that perspective, I think is so warped. It's so weird, but like also like perfectly in character for him to think that way.
Mm-hmm.
And
then you got the little bit with the three of them, the three alphas in the back of the truck or the jail, the prison transport, which I thought was an interesting bit. I like that whole scene and the idea that they basically kill the only guy that can steer.
Right.
Which I thought was interesting.
So what did you think about the reveal of the mission within the mission bit? Let's talk about that.
Okay.
Actually, but first, let me do some housekeeping. If you like our show, you can check all of our past episodes on YouTube at letmeknowhowitis.com. Just please, however you find us, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave us a review. And finally, if you have any topic ideas for the show, you can send them our way on Twitter or on the comments section. Our Twitter handle is our show's initials, LMKHII. All right. Mission within a mission. So let's go. What's the reveal?
Sad and twisted.
Okay. Go into it, Tommy.
Well, no.
What is it? I mean, like say just like bluntly what it is first. Like, what is it?
It's basically a dirty secret that the Americans came across Starro. Instead of bringing it to the U.S., they find a country in which there are allies with, plant it there, do weird experiments, and they don't want to be revealed that this is what they're doing for the last 30 years, basically. Right. Yeah, it's a big cover-up because I don't even think the government certain people, the government weren't even aware of what they're doing. It wasn't until recently that they found out what Jotunheim truly was,
Right.
And then as a result of them not having control or even having them as allies anymore, they wanted to scrap their fingerprints on something so sinister as to finding an alien life form. And instead of peaceably dealing with it, they torture it manipulate it and use it and try to weaponize it.
Yeah.
Correct?
While torturing also people. In the name of research for this alien that can be the greatest weapon in the world.
Yeah.
Potentially. And I love this reveal. I love this reveal so much. Because I love the bit where Peacemaker is now like this is my mission from Waller.
Right.
You got we're all here as a collective carrying out this mission to destroy this lab and make sure that this Starro thing doesn't get out. But his submission is I have to make sure all records of this, like any hard drives, anything like that gets destroyed. That's his thing, which puts us at odds with Flag, which is a nice bit where it's very much like Waller very much knows about this situation.
Oh, sure. Right. But that's the thing again about another thing I didn't quite, like I said, I'm fine with the idea that Waller would do certain things. Mm-hmm. I'm not okay with the fact that Waller will do everything. Mm-hmm. My thing is, yes, Waller has a mission and I understand that, but I've never looked at Waller. Waller has a code. Mm-hmm. Waller's not amoral. And I feel in this movie, there's a lot of times where Waller just sort of was the nascent, was the representative for people that would do anything. And I just don't think her character would do anything.
Yeah.
I know. That's my thing. I think Viola Davis is awesome. I think her performance was great. Mm-hmm. I'd love to see her do more stuff with Waller. But at the same time, to the point where the people in the office have to, whack you in the back of the head with a golf club.
Right.
I just don't think, and the other thing is I don't think Waller lets that stand. I don't think she's not going to be muttering in her office and giving side eye after that happens. That's also the other thing about it where I was like, no,
Clifton, Tommy, what do you guys think? What are your thoughts on it?
No, well, I don't think Waller is that easily subdued or based upon how, the mission turned out the way it is, but the way that she was manhandled, there's no way in hell they'd be sitting in the office thinking about what they did or even her not dealing with directly and succinctly. She had she had bombs put in the heads of prisoners. That kind of finality to things is what she's known to be.
Right.
But as far as her subordinates basically having a coup, nah, man. That's there's no way.
No. Okay, that's an interesting aspect. What do you think about Clifton? What do you think about her characterization in the film?
I've not read too much of her. I only know her from the animated series, really. And she definitely goes a little too far in the animated series. So that's the only real version I knew of her before. Mm-hmm. But yeah, her staff probably should have had to have run after after stopping her. I did look up the blonde woman is that was in the office with Steve Agee and them. Her character is Amelia Harcourt.
Okay.
Who I looked up is from the more recent Suicide Squad books. First appearance was November of 2016.
Gotcha.
So she was in a recent Suicide Squad run comic for a little bit. So that's who that was. That was also in The Office.
Gotcha.
I think it's all beautifully set up. I think to get us to this point where the characters are now illuminated to what really is the situation. Mm-hmm. Right. And Flag has his reaction of I don't care. He's I've served this country for X number of years, but this is wrong and this needs to get out. And I'm taking this information with me, which then puts him at odds with Peacemaker. Mm-hmm. Right. Which I think is a beautiful setup thing. I'm with you with the Waller stuff, which is weird. I think her characterization in both movies had some moments of that's her perfectly, and also ooh, that's a step too far.
Right.
Right. In the first movie, her team, she actually picks up a gun once the operation is coming to a close and blows away the whole room. Mm-hmm. And I'm well, okay, that's not Waller. That's too far. Waller to me certainly doesn't get her own hands dirty.
Generally no.
On this, right? Yeah, she's gonna put you in a situation. If she wants you out of the way, she's gonna put you in a situation for this. Right. But what makes it hard for me, which is in direct contradiction of what I just said, because this is the exact situation she's in this movie, though. The idea that she puts all of those crooks in the first scene in a situation to just get blown away.
Right.
Because for that, that's the only goal is like, I need them all to die. Mm-hmm. I'm like, why? Right. I mean, to not know why she wants these other characters out of the way, I think is a little bit of a disservice. I certainly see why it could be like she can foresee like, well, if Flag knows about this, he's going to be an issue, and I need to sort of like, this is a way of getting possibly taking care of that problem before it arises, right? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But it trickles down to like, but why is she getting rid of like all the other ones?
Sure. Oh yeah. You know? Well, I mean, I don't. Here's my thing. She's never, as far as I know, never taken glee in the fact that I'm sending these criminals to die.
Right.
That's never been her, like, there means to an end, yes, but it's not like, oh, I can't wait to watch. It's almost along lines of like, oh, I can't wait to see how this guy dies. Mm-hmm. They're like, no, not really. So, yeah, I thought there was just some of the characterization didn't quite work for me. I understand the idea of like, and then I guess, well, so we had the reveal of, I guess we should probably try and get to either wrap this up or get to a point where, but we get to the point where Starro's revealed fully and Starro's break, and like the whole thing with Flag and Peacemaker when they finally have come to blows, it kind of reminds me of how a Flag, like there's a fight with Flag and a guy in that where they're fighting in a building that's coming apart. So I don't know if that was just a direct nod to that or just that was the scene that they had for it. Mm-hmm. But I like that whole fight. I like that whole scene. I think that all works. And then the reveal at the end with Ratcatcher 2, I think is really good. And then just the end, you know, what may look like the end of Peacemaker.
Right.
And then the whole time as the building's falling apart, Starro's tearing, you know, starting to get free. I guess I didn't quite understand what the turn was for Bloodsport. Mm-hmm. I didn't quite get the whole thing of what switch got thrown that said, nope, I'm going to go stand up to this thing. Mm-hmm. And again, they call back to the daughter that we saw for 2 minutes of the scene or whatever before, you know, so we can see like the whole, oh, that's my dad, you know, taking on a kaiju.
Right.
But, you know, if it had been another character that did it in turn, like if it had been Harley and Harley had turned in that moment and said, no, we have to go try and we can't let all these people die. Mm-hmm. You know, like the whole, like I said before, there are bad guys and then there are evil guys, right? Mm. You know, and it's one of those things where a quick aside, I've talked about it with Tommy, like the idea of like the show Fargo does that really well too. Like, no, there are people that are good at being criminals and there are bad guys and then there are evil guys, right? Mm. Tommy, wouldn't you agree?
Oh, no, definitely.
Like that show particularly does amazingly well with giving you like the levels and strata of like what being a bad guy, quote unquote, or being a villain, quote unquote, is like. Right, and yeah. I think the Suicide Squad should do that as well. And I think the idea that Harley wouldn't want to, you know, there's a lot of like little moments of like the idea of like kids were the place you didn't cross the line for some of these villains, right? They hit it a couple times.
Yeah, there is a lot of mention of that in this movie a couple times of things happening to kids. Right. And how it's always awful.
Right. Yeah. And like that was the line for a lot of those villains was like, no, so like, well, I mean, like they mentioned Weasel had no problem with killing kids, but some of the others were like, oh my God, there's no way I'm killing kids.
Yeah.
Or I would never do that. Or like, so that would have been my moment of like, well, it should have been Harley that turned. And then the rest of them been like, well, we can't let her die alone kind of a thing.
Right. It's one of the things too that makes the general so evil too, is that he hangs the kids.
Yeah.
Right. Like, like the former president's kids and stuff like, yeah.
Yeah. That and the whole thing with the birds. That's the other bit was like, you just, you know, that's a shorthand of like, oh, you're really evil. So, yeah. But I like the finale's good. I like the fight. I think it's all cool. I mean, as soon as I saw the other thing is when, you know, as soon as Polka Dot Man's like, I'm a fucking superhero. That's what he says. You knew full well what was coming. So, yeah.
Well, I thought so even from the commercials, because that bit's in the trailer where when I saw the clip of him do that in the trailer, I'm like, oh, Polka Dot Man eats it. Yeah. I'm like, that's the moment he's dying. Right. You know?
Right. But the bit of his mom tearing up the city was nice. Yeah. Like all the, like I thought the fact, well, again, that's the other thing about the turn that I thought was weird for Bloodsport is like, I got to go save these people, but you know, all these people that have these stars on their heads, I'm just going to blow them away. Mm-hmm. You know, that was the other thing. It was like, whoa, like there might be Star Labs might find a way to separate them properly. We don't know yet. Right. So,
well, yeah, I think that Yeah, I can't disagree with you there, but I think the shorthand that, once we talk about the shot that I talked about at the start, when you see the shot of like people that have had the star removed and their faces are gone where the star was.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, there's a certain sense of like, well, those people are dead anyway.
Well, no, I agree with you. They make a point of mentioning the fact that like because that's my wife even mentions to me like, wait a minute, that's not the deal with Starro. You can separate from Starro once he's been like basically been attached to you. I'm like, yeah, I know, but I guess in this one they're playing it differently. That no, it's like it's a death sentence once you have been you've made contact with Starro, if it's been attached to your face, whatever.
Right.
So
at least after a certain amount of time, as far as you can tell.
Yeah. It's hard to tell, but yeah,
I think that bit is fun. The fact that you get kind of like a weird zombie movie at the end with a like cross with a kaiju fight is fun.
Yeah.
To me,
that's where Tommy was saying they tricked him into watching a horror movie. Right. He didn't know he was getting a horror movie.
They did.
Yeah.
Yes.
Whereas for me, that conflict with Peacemaker and Flag is the real like kind of tension of that of the film. Like I think that scene is so beautifully done. It's so well done, and while I hate the outcome of it because like I said, like I think Flag is an important character for the concept.
Right.
That said, I mean, it can work without him. Clearly, I mean, like Bloodsport can fill that role in movies going forward. Of like I'm the guy kind of like keeping them in line. But I think there's a certain logic to Flag that makes sense to me. Of like Waller can at least know what she's getting with him, right? Whereas like still like any criminal, like to put the criminal in charge can still kind of like be at the whim of whatever, like I'm not going to do this or I am going to do that. Whereas like he's committed to the ideal, right? Like she doesn't have to worry about him. And I think that like just like I said, just in an exercise of logic, just to have him around to kind of be like, oh, okay, he's the chaperone. Got it.
Sure. Well, I mean, I also like the fact that, as much as Waller, we want to believe that Waller's going to do whatever Waller wants to do. Waller sets up all sorts of people around her that's going to tell her no.
Yeah.
Or that's too far, or we shouldn't do that. And Rick Flag is one of those people.
And I thought about it too, like, because I think Viola Davis is awesome as Waller. I think she's really great. But yeah, I think the thing about it, like thinking about it since, is that she's a little too aggressive at wanting certain people to die. I think, and I think that's the thing that kind of bothers me a little bit.
Sure,
you know what I mean?
I can see that. Yeah.
So we should start wrapping it up pretty soon. But final thoughts. Let's go ahead. Just go around. Anything we left out that you want to get off your chest?
Real quick, the dim mock, the thing that they talk about, the death touch.
Right.
That's actually from a comic.
Okay.
Oddly enough, not a Suicide Squad comic.
Right.
It's from the Flash Annual #1.
Okay.
I believe it's Mike Baron is the writer on that, because he was still the writer at that time on Flash. But it's all about Wally West, meeting a master of the that basically explains the dim mock. I was really surprised that it was in there because it's kind of an odd pull. But that whole bit is from that annual. So if you want to learn more about the dim mock and the death touch and how you can, how it can be done, it's all in that book.
All right.
Okay. Tommy, any last thought?
No, I just want to put out I was tricked into watching the horror movie.
Tommy is not a horror fan.
No. Cringe, double cringe. But other than that, it was entertaining. I can't even lie. Very comedic. It had James Gunn's touch, which it made you cringe and had all moments, all in the same movie.
Yes,
which is weird, but yet that's his thing. It had all this signature stuff. I can't even lie. It's a James Gunn movie through and through.
Yeah,
looking forward to what he does in the future, as always. It's just and the Peacemaker show that's coming out. Let's see if he continue to use more DC characters in such a way that would open up the door. And the question, I wonder if Berlanti is producing that show, because he's all over the DC.
No, I don't know who's involved in that one.
Yeah, that's all.
Clifton, what about you?
No, I enjoyed it a lot. He went in for James Gunn. Now, I do have an opinion on James Gunn where I don't know if it's unpopular, but I think he actually works a little better in some constraints with some boundaries. I think when left unchecked, he can get a little lost in his excess. Like some of the horror aspects that Tommy was talking about here.
I don't disagree.
I think could have been, dialed back a little and been as effective in a different way, without going a little too far. But it's what he wanted to do. But the one thing, like, he does his heart, like he always is able to inject heart into his stories, and he does that here. And I think like the ending here, the rat catcher, the character, the other characters, like they have such heart that like they really stick the landing on this movie because of that. So I mean, I definitely appreciate it all for that and really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I agree. I enjoyed this movie a lot. I agree with you, Clifton. I think reining him in just a little bit would kind of I think would at least kind of trim some of the like that's weird like moments in this movie. But I mean, it's a nice looking movie. It's a fun movie and everything. I have to train myself, and this will be my final thought. I have to train myself to remember that DC movies don't have a plan like Marvel movies. And I think, and that's kind of like after I watched it, as much as I liked it, there was a sense of like, there's like a disappointment a little bit, because also there's not any setup for something grand coming, right? Like your stingers are a little disappointing to me because they're kind of the same. Like Weasel's revealed to be alive. Got it. Okay. That's fun. And then the second one is like, oh, Peacemaker's revealed to be alive. Got it. Okay. which like really I don't care about, because I know he's getting a show, which I'm on board for,
Yeah. And that one, honestly, I wondered if it was like, they're like, we got the show coming, we got to shoot this stinger so people know he didn't die.
No, I 100%.
I wondered,
Clifton, I thought that too. That was something I was going to ask. I was like, is that stinger something that was filmed much later? Because he has said that like, basically it was lockdown that like where he didn't have much to do, where like he wrote the Peacemaker show and he started thinking about like the idea of the character. So that does lead me to think like, was the character intended to just be dead? And then like, oh no, we got something here. And like weirdly, they're going to let me make it. So let's turn around and shoot this, which
while we're shooting the show, possible.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of that. I kind of wish, Marvel spoils us, I think, with in jokes of oh, they're setting up for right, like that means Thanos, like So yeah, and the same thing happened to me in Wonder Woman 84, which I'm like, I kind of like I'm still waiting for like really no Black Adam nod to anything, nothing. Nothing? Okay,
yeah,
all right. Guys, let us know how you like this. If you want more review podcast episodes, because this is our first time talking about the movie with everybody, so we just decided to record it and see if you guys like it. So, as always, we'll post links and examples of everything we talk about. Let me know howitis.com. Just please remember to like us and follow us on social media. Thanks for listening, and we will see you guys next time.